Conservatives are basically the "if it ain't broke, don't fix it" crew. They're all about maintaining traditional values like the nuclear family, organized religion, a strong military, and property rights. After all, who needs progress when you've got a tried and true formula? Liberals, on the other hand, generally are the you do you party. They like individual rights, government by the people, equality under the law, free markets, elections, separation of powers, and all those great freedoms like speech, press, assembly, and religion. Basically, they want everyone to have a fair shot at life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You know those people that say, "I'm Switzerland" when you ask them about politics? That's moderates, neutral, inoffensive, and typically blissfully unengaged. Though some do take a limited interest in what's going on, but they generally stick to the middle ground and avoid rocking the boat. After all, why take a stand when you can comfortably sit on the fence, right? Capitalism, the greed is good economic system. It's based in private ownership, free exchange, competition, and the almighty profit motive. In most of their minds, if you can dream it, you can sell it, and make a buck or two. Socialism is basically the hippie cousin of capitalism. They prefer worker-owned means of production and economic democracy, and it comes in so many different flavors of what their ideas are that you could call it the Baskin-Robbins of political ideology. Syndicalism is almost like socialism's rebellious cousin. They're all about sticking it to the man through unions, worker orgs called syndicates, and direct action like strikes. 'Cause who needs a ballot box when you've got a picket sign? Corporatism is that one big happy family approach to organizing society. Everyone gets sorted out into neat little vocational groups under the watchful eye of the state. No need to worry about answering the question, what do you want to be when you grow up? The state will choose for you based on your interests. Libertarians are often the "don't tread on me" types. They're about maximizing personal freedom and autonomy, usually by keeping the government small and hands-off as much as possible. The kind of people that want to be left alone as long as they're not doing anything wrong. Communists are the sharing is caring crew. They want to get rid of private property, money, and class distinctions so that everyone's needs can be met equitably. It's all like one big, happy, everyone gets a piece of the pie utopia. At least, in theory. It almost never works out that way. Anarchists are your typical smash-the-state rebels. They want to replace government with decentralized voluntary associations. It's like communism, but without the pesky dictatorship or proletariat phase. Fascism is the my way or the highway crowd. They're all in on authoritarianism, nationalism, and rigid social hierarchies led by a dictator. They focus hard on making their country great by any means necessary, even if it means denying basic civil liberties and dignities to its people. Nazis are essentially fascists on steroids. They take the ultranationalism and militarism thing to a whole new level of horrifying. With a heaping helping of so-called Aryan superiority, eugenics, anti-Semitism, ableism, racism, just about every bad ism you can think of all mixed into one horrific stew. Environmentalism are essentially the tree huggers of the political world. To them, the planet is everything, and they want to save it through green policies and sustainable practice. Reduce, reuse, recycle, and all that jazz. It typically doesn't stand on its own and is often lumped in with other ideologies. Feminists are the girl power gang. They fight for women's rights and gender equality. They often decry patriarchal society and want to bring it down, sometimes going a little further depending upon who you ask. Egalitarians are the all-for-one and one-for-all type of people. They believe in equal rights and treatment under the law for everyone, regardless of race, gender, class, or creed. A beautiful yet somewhat unrealistic kumbaya view on the world. Neoliberalism is almost the complete opposite of anything communist or socialist. It's all about privatization, deregulation, globalization, and free trade. The goal? Minimize government intervention and let the private sector run the show. Basically like handing corporations the keys to the economy and saying, "Have at it, boys." Social democracy is essentially the Robin Hood of political ideology. They focus on economic and social intervention to promote social justice within a capitalist framework. Think strong welfare programs, regulation of the economy, and a reform, not revolution approach, basically putting a friendly face on capitalism. Social liberalism is like social democracy's laid-back cousin. Instead of focusing on outright equality, it's all about creating equal opportunity and making social mobility easier. They generally welcome a bit of government intervention in the name of economic justice and civil liberty. In a nutshell, everyone gets a fair shot. Social capitalism is the love child of social democracy, social liberalism, and capitalism. You might say it's the ultimate, can't we all just get along ideology. They're the ones looking for a happy medium between a totally free market and a welfare state. The so-called third way is like the centrist superhero of politics. They're looking for the middle ground between left-wing and right-wing ideologies, combining bits and pieces of social democracy and liberalism. This is about creating a social investment state that helps people help themselves through education and job training, adopting a teach-a-man-to-fish approach to welfare. Marxism is basically the OG of communist thought. It's based on the idea that capitalism is inherently exploitable and unsustainable, leading to class struggles between the bourgeoisie, the owners, and the proletariat, workers. The end goal? A classless, stateless, communist utopia. But first, the proletariat needs to seize the means of production and establish a dictatorship. Given dictators' history, you can see why this one never works out. Leninism is basically Marxism's more hardcore sibling. It emphasizes the need for a revolutionary vanguard party to lead the working class into overthrowing capitalism and establishing a socialist state. Kinda like saying, workers of the world, unite! But first, let me lead the way. Neo-libertarianism is like libertarianism's more socially progressive alter ego. They're all about maximizing individual liberty, but it recognizes that sometimes the government needs to step in to make it happen. They believe in having a free market, but also making sure that everyone has access to education and healthcare. Classical liberalism is like the granddaddy of modern libertarianism. It's all about individual freedom, free markets, and limited government intervention. The idea is that if you let people do their thing and keep the government out of the way, everything will sort itself out. Sounds good in theory, but humans can be pretty weird. Anarcho-capitalism is the Wild West of political ideologies. It's all about abolishing the state and letting the free market handle everything, including law enforcement and security. Basically, they say, who needs government when you've got private security firms and competing court systems? Oh dear. Nationalism is like the go-team of political ideology. It's all about promoting the interests and cultures of a particular nation, often at the expense of others. The goal is to create a strong, self-sufficient, and unified national identity. Just don't let it go too far. Ultranationalism is like nationalism's steroid-abusing big brother. It takes national pride to the extreme, often promoting xenophobia, racism, and aggression towards other nations. They tend to believe that their country is the best and therefore must save, so to speak, other countries by invading or conquering them. Do you see the problem here? Georgeism, also known as Geoism or single tax theory, is like the hipster of economic ideologies. It's all about the idea that people should own what they create, but that natural resources, like land, should belong to everyone. The solution? A single tax on land value. It's like saying, sure, you can own your house, but you gotta pay rent to society for the land it's on. Radical liberalism is like classic liberalism's more progressive grandchild. It takes the basic ideology of individual rights and freedoms and runs with them, advocating for things like universal suffrage, equality for all, and the abolition of traditional hierarchies. Integralism is like the make religion great again ideology. It advocates for the integration of church and state, with religious principles forming the basis of public policy and law. It's like saying, render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, but make sure Caesar is following the Pope's orders. Reactionism is like the back in my day of political ideologies. They're all about opposing any progressive change and trying to turn back the clock to a supposedly better time. Basically, any change to them is bad, and we should all just go back to the old days. Like monarchy, traditional gender roles, and no avocado toast. Jacobins are essentially the Viva la Revolution of political ideologies. So named for the Jacobins, the most famous political club during the French Revolution, it's all about overthrowing the old order and replacing it with a new, more equitable system. It's like saying, off with their heads, but like in a totally progressive and democratic way, right? And there you have it, a whirlwind tour of political ideologies from A to Z, or something like that. Remember, no matter which ideology you subscribe to, the most important thing is to stay informed, engaged, and open-minded. And if all else fails, just blame it on the media and call it a day. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more tongue-in-cheek takes on the wild world of politics. Until next time, keep questioning authority.